Hello, humans and inanimate objects, random people, animals, everybody. What's up? This is another episode of the wonderful podcast Classic Buffalo, where we share everyday people's stories in an effort to encourage mental health. We're talking about dogs, we're talking about anxiety, depression, sports, blogging, fashion, Kanye, we're talking about it all. Whatever you want to talk about, we're here talking about it, sharing your story. Today, we're going to be interviewing an actual counselor, which, soon to be, she's getting her master's. And I've known her since college. She's an awesome person, a Midwesternite from Wisconsin. Katherine's going to be talking about some things that I think you're really going to enjoy hearing about. And that would be, how do you take care of somebody when you haven't gone through something like depression or anxiety? How can you still have empathy? How can you still have sympathy? And you get to watch her journey, kind of hear her journey. That's probably a better way to say it, but she's an awesome person, and you get to hear about her. And we talk about the pursuit of peace, aka Shalom. So without further ado, let's get to book 35 with Katherine Kunz. Joining us via the drive home, it's Katherine. What's up, Katherine?
Not much. I am driving home.
Nailed it. You're in Minnesota. What's it like driving through Minnesota in the winter? Or are you back home in Wisconsin?
I'm actually back home from Wisconsin.
Whoa. Do Wisconsin people have accents? I think you kind of do.
Oh yeah, I definitely do. You can definitely hear it when I say bag or tag and stuff like that. It's like that A sound.
Is your accent the most like Wisconsin thing about you? Or like, is it like, every time sorry. I don't know what are Wisconsin traditions or whatever, but is there something that like you're super Wisconsin?
Yes. So whatever you people call water fountains that you drink out of, we call bubbler.
Bubblers.
Heck yeah. Whatever a water fountain is, that's something outside. A bubbler is what you drink from. And beer and cheese is real in this state. Like, we are known for that, and it is so good. It's hard to find a Wisconsinite who doesn't like cheese unless they're like lactose intolerant, or have dairy issues. But
I feel like you get exiled out of Wisconsin, like you get sent to Minnesota.
Yeah. But sometimes, so I worked in Minnesota, and Minnesotans don't always like Wisconsinites. Like,
why?
It's a northern thing, and also the Packer-Vikings rivalry is real.
Are you a big sports nut?
Not really. It's kind of like another thing that you just, I don't know, you sit with the fam and you watch football mostly. And I really like basketball, so I've gone to a couple Bucks games actually.
Oh, nice.
This year, yeah.
So let's introduce you and let's kind of get right into your story. So you are originally, I think just from knowing you a little bit, we went to college together for 4 years, and then we would kind of hang out a little bit after college. But from our experience, I'm pretty sure you're from like Wisconsin, like you never really moved around, right?
That would be right. Yep.
Okay, sweet. 1 for 1. Okay. What was your family like growing up?
So I come from a family of 6. My parents are together, and they've been married for, 29 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time. They're special people. And then I have an older brother who just got married, so I guess now we're 7 people, which is crazy. So my older brother Alex and his wife Emma, and then there's myself, and I have a younger sister named Carolyn, and then a younger brother named Eric. So, yeah, we're one big happy family for the most part. It wasn't always that way, but we are right now.
What was like one of your favorite moments like growing up?
Mostly around the holidays, like especially with Christmas coming up. We have huge Christmas traditions where we get together. It switches off at my grandparents' house Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and literally all my cousins get together, my aunts, uncle, immediate family, and it's just, we play games, we sing Christmas carols, and open gifts together, and just like it's just an awesome community feel. It's like, oh, it's so great to see the family.
So family is like super important to you.
Yeah, it is number one in my life, I would say.
What impact do you think families have like on people's like outcome for who they are as a person?
I think they have a huge like impact because who else do you spend time with growing up? I don't know. I've learned so much from my parents and my siblings, even, and just like through the good and the bad. Like with my mom, her and I did not have a good relationship growing up at all, and just like learning from that and learning how do you live with somebody that you don't like, and working through that, and now like going through college and taking time apart from her, learning how to appreciate what she was trying to do for me when I was growing up. Like, it's so nice to have that tight knit feeling, but that tension was so rough for me growing up. I really learned how to like sit in that tension and then appreciate it later, I would say.
That's awesome. A lot of people don't know how to like sit in tension.
It is not fun. It is great. Yeah. Wow. But I mean, you have to do it. Like, family is blood, and to me, like, blood is thicker than anything else. So that was a realization moment for me, and that's why I think family is so important to other people. It's like, who are you going to have at the end of the day? Like, friends are incredible, and like, you need a strong friend group, but I mean, you're still related to somebody by blood, and like, you have that connection that you can't deny.
Do you think it was like kind of growing that relationship early on and getting so good at being in tension that kind of led you into your passion for mental health and like kind of wanting to be like a counselor or be not necessarily literally but metaphorically being there for other people, and you're just so good at sitting in tension with other people in the pain or whatever that you just were doing it as a kid and now it's just second nature to you? Do you think that's kind of how that translated, or where did you get your passion for mental health?
That is an excellent question. I would say, so I'm a very faith-based person. Like, I have a very deep relationship with God. I'm a Christian and I believe in God and the Trinity, and I have a relationship with Jesus. And I think that has really impacted my choice to go into mental health and actually praying a lot and learning like what my call is and where my heart goes out. Like I said earlier, like my mom and I, we did not have a good relationship, and it was actually over a youth retreat that we talked about forgiveness that I made like the heart change to forgive my mom for things that she didn't even like know that she was doing to me. This is kind of traumatic, and like I always believe like you need to forgive everybody. It's just a weight that gets relieved when you can forgive somebody, and you don't necessarily have to tell them, but for me it was super important that I tell my mom that I forgave her. And so after this retreat, I like had it in my head. I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to my mom, and I'm just gonna say like, I forgive you, blah blah blah. Feel like $1 million and move on with my life. So I actually went home, and she was sitting in our kitchen, blah blah blah. I was telling her how great the retreat was, and I was like, hey mom, I just want you to know that I forgive you, and that I just kind of want to move on. And she looked at me, and she laughed in my face.
Wow.
And that was so heartbreaking for me because I had this wonderful weekend, and like I'd gotten the guts to say like, I forgive you. I'm putting all this hard stuff and tension behind me. And she laughed. And she literally said this verbatim. She's like, there's nothing, like, why are you forgiving me? Like, what is there to forgive? And I was like, oh my God, you don't even know, woman. Like, oh, I can't tell you how many times I just felt broken by things that she said to me. But I just had to turn around and walk away from that. And I knew in my heart, like, I did what I had to do to forgive her. And now it's on her to kind of, like, be shaken by that a little bit. And for me to move on and have that heart change and, like, go forward with that. So I guess that was a moment where I even broke the tension and just moved on from that. So
that's a good thing, because that's sort of right over the nerve of like a lot of times in trauma or just in relationships with other people, we don't want to advocate for ourselves or say something because we're worried about how they will interact with it or respond. And I feel like so much is more so on doing it for you because you feel like that's what you need to do. It can still hurt, like having somebody laugh in your face, right? But at the same
Yeah.
time, over time, you're like, at least I said what I felt like I needed to say, and I do forgive this person. But
Yeah.
a lot of people like are afraid because they're afraid of that person laughing in their face. What would you like say? Because obviously you got like the courage, to just say something. If there's another person in those shoes, what would you say to them?
It is so hard, and it might take that person coming to a breaking point. Like over that weekend that I was gone, like I was broken. Like my heart was broken. I knew I had these issues, and it took me to reaching that breaking point where I knew that I just needed to take that step and just say I forgave her. I mean, that's so hard, and I don't know how to prepare somebody for that. Like each journey is your own, but I would say when you feel that nudge, don't be afraid to step into it. Don't be afraid to get pushed by that little nudge, because I mean that's what I needed at that time. And you don't know if that one word or phrase that you say to somebody is what you need to break out of a cycle or to break out of a hard time for you. I'm not really a risk taker, but when it comes to stuff like that where I need to feel well again, like I will take that risk in order to try to feel better. So I really recommend that for people.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you have like a motto or like a catchphrase?
Shalom.
Shalom.
Yes. So that's a funny one too. I worked at a Jewish camp for 5 years, and I worked in the kitchen, which was a nightmare. It was horrible. I loved the people, but the work itself was not great. And that was one thing that I really picked up on, was just Shabbat Shalom. It's Friday night, and it's just like a peace and an overwhelming like calmness for this special evening of just prayer and feasting and praising God. So yeah, Shalom. And I actually say that to people when they say hello to me. I'll say Shalom. And they're like, Shalom, what does that mean? And it's just like I know that I'm wishing peace on people. So I'll say that.
Did you have any like mental hurdles to overcome in your pursuit of like mental health? As in your pursuit of a career in it?
Not really, which has been really hard to struggle with, actually. As somebody who's going into the mental health career, I can never really say that I've struggled with about depression. I felt depressed, yes, and I felt very extreme sorrow, and I felt anxious, but never to a point where I've like lost control. Or there have been times where I felt like I was starting to, but I've always been a super, super, super self-aware person. Like it's kind of scary. Like they talk about self-care in grad school, and let me tell you, I think I have a pretty solid self-care plan. But yeah, so that's been actually really interesting to work through as a counselor and training. Like how can I relate to people who are struggling with stuff like this? And it's really just, again, it comes back to every person's journey is their own, and I want to understand that. Like I want to step in to the experience with somebody and hear their experience from them and understand from their perspective. So it's more of like, I don't know if you ever heard of like transference.
Yeah.
But I want like a client or a patient to transfer everything onto me so they can either see it or I can just feel it and be like extra empathetic. I guess empathetic isn't the right word since I haven't experienced it, but like just be in that moment with somebody when they're talking about their experience.
A lot of people are kind of anti-counseling. What are your thoughts on someone like who could use counseling? Because for a lot of people, like especially me, counseling is very beneficial or has been. I've had some really rough relationships with counselors, but at the same time, it's been like a very beneficial thing for me. But a lot of times it can just be intimidating, but it's usually kind of the first, someone usually gets that before medication. I don't know. I'm not necessarily knowledgeable on the statistics or how things go in someone's medical health journey. But, what would you say to somebody who is considering it or might be afraid to see a counselor? What would your encouragement be to that person?
Yeah, my encouragement would be to really consider what's stopping you from going, what fears you might have, or just concerns, and to be honest with yourself about that, because those are valid. Like, you're gonna meet with a stranger if you decide to take this step, and you're gonna like share your life and be completely vulnerable with that person, which is terrifying. I've been through counseling, and I've had a couple different counselors, and I mean, one I absolutely loved. Her name was Shannon, and like, oh my God, shout out to her. She's incredible. But then there was another counselor who I just didn't like, who I saw in college. And you're going to be vulnerable with this person, and it's okay to not be vulnerable right away. If you do take this step and like see a counselor, and I recommend it for anything. When you see the counselor and you don't feel a connection, it's okay to say that you don't feel a connection and stop and see somebody else. I am 100% for counseling as a future counselor, because you can have all the problems or no problems. It's just so nice to have a third party who's not involved in your situation. So in college, I went to see a counselor I didn't really love, but she was a third party that I needed to talk to about relationship problems I was having with some girls on the floor I was living with. And it was just so nice to have a third person who had no idea like anything about me and could just like just talk through my feelings, or like kind of chime in and be like, okay, well, have you considered this, or where do you want to be? It was just super nice to have that third party. And even for just mental health issues, like if you're struggling with anxiety or depression, counselors are trained to give you options and tools to help you when you're feeling your lowest, to help you feel normal again, or well, or just not so bad. I don't know. Everyone has a different word or different feeling for what, I don't know. Just if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. That's not good. And counselors are there to help you figure out what that not good is, and to help it get better, and to help you get better.
Yeah. I wanted to read this and get your thoughts on it. I saw this the other day. It was pretty good. It's like a poster that somebody posted a photo of, that it's outside of a counselor's door. It's on a pretty popular, Reddit or whatever, but just wanted to read it and get your thoughts on it. / you may have heard it before, but I feel like it's still worth to share to other people if they haven't before. But so it's about an owl and handing out sticks. Have you heard it?
Okay. I don't think so. No.
So here it goes. I don't like the phrase "a cry for help." I just don't like how it sounds. When somebody says to me, "I'm thinking about suicide, I have a plan, I just need a reason not to do it," the last thing I see is helplessness. I think, your depression's been beating you up for years. It's called you ugly and stupid and pathetic and a failure for so long that you've forgotten that it's wrong. You don't see any good in yourself and you don't have any hope. But still, here you are. You've come over to me, banged on my door and said, "Hey, staying alive is really hard right now. Just give me something to fight with. I don't care if it's a stick. Just give me a stick and I can stay alive." How is that helpless? I think that's incredible. You're like a Marine, trapped for years behind enemy lines. Your gun's been taken away. You're out of ammo. You're malnourished, and you've probably caught some kind of jungle virus that's making you hallucinate giant spiders. And you're still just going, "Give me a stick. I'm not dying out here." A cry for help makes it sound like I'm supposed to take pity on you, but you don't need my pity. This isn't pathetic. This is the will to survive. This is how humans have lived long enough to become the dominant species. With no hope, running on nothing, you're ready to cut through 100 miles of hostile jungle with nothing but a stick. And if that's what it takes to get to safety, all I'm doing is handing out sticks. You're the one staying alive. I just thought that was so good.
And like, that's another thing too, is that just like gives the person who's receiving the stick, like, you have control. I'm just reminding you that you have control. And I'm helping you feel like you are in control. I'm helping you with giving you tools so you can take back control of your life. So I really, I like that. If it's handing out sticks, if that's what it takes, I love that. Yeah.
Could you have like a story of something where you've already seen someone someone you've actually worked with, and you don't have to use names or anything, but it'd be kind of cool to hear just someone whose life you've already impacted, and you're like, oh my gosh, wow, I've already seen them change in XYZ way.
So I worked in Minnesota for an organization called Treehouse. I was first an intern. That was 2 summers ago, and my main goal was to work with teenagers, varying from like 7th grade to seniors in high school, and help them get out of hopeless situations, whether it was emotionally or even circumstantially, like at home. It was my job to help them. So I have worked with quite a few teenagers actually, whom I just love and adore and I'm still connected with. So I was an intern first and then I was hired on last April. And now I'm in grad school, so I'm not currently working there, but I'd love to go back. And 2 summers ago, there was this one boy. We didn't even know how old he was. We'll call him Dean. And he showed up to our location, which was in a house. And we were like, okay, like, this is crazy. Who is this kid? Like, why is he showing up at our front door? We only meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're the ones who pick up kids. How did he get here? And so Dean walked in the door, and we were like, hey, like, what's going on? And he just started unloading his life story to us. And he had just been removed from a situation at his house where he had been trapped in his basement by his father, living with his mom, and he had been there for maybe 12 years. Never went to public school. Really, I mean, looking at him, he seemed kind of malnourished, and I'm sure he was, like, just a poor diet, stuff like that. Never left the house, so he had no concept of the world, social media, no phone. It was crazy meeting this kid, and he didn't even know how old he was. So getting to know him, we learned more about his story and just like how anxious he was and his self-harm behaviors, just because this whole new world is coming at him and he has no idea how to cope with it. So it was our job then as a staff to come alongside him and start giving him resources. So it turns out that he was 17 years old, and we have to be careful with 18-year-olds when they come to us because of, like, they're considered adults and we have minors. We work with minors. And so we were like, okay, great, 17, we have him for a year, let's do what we can do. So we started one-on-one mentoring with him, going through his emotions and like, what is he feeling, labeling things. He's anxious. Okay, what's making you anxious, and how can we process this? How is your relationship with your mom? Stuff like that. What is your dad doing? Is he still in the picture? Does he want to take you back? Stuff like that. Super scary. But we were a support system for him to just kind of unload. And we have a really cool network of resources, providing housing and food and stuff like that. And then our programming is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we have support groups on Tuesdays, and then there's a faith-based organization. So we have kind of like a watered down youth group on Thursdays. But this kid was incredible. So he literally showed up one day, we didn't have program, and then came to our next program night, which was support group night. And he was so ready to just be with people his own age and just relate. It was incredible. And this was after just like a couple days of knowing him. So Dean like involved himself right away, and we were able to help him process like his situation and kind of normalize the world for him. And now he is turning 19, and he has worked 2 jobs, working at a gas station and doing an IT job. He's getting his GED. There was an option for him to go to high school, but it's like a Montessori school, so it's like you learn at your own pace and you learn what you want. So he completed 2 years of that, and so he's finishing up the last 2 to get his GED. And he has moved out of his mom's house. He has a girlfriend. He is an alumni of our program, and he just came back. I was like talking to my boss on Tuesday, and he came back on Tuesday and he did a where I'm sharing story for our teens. And he told his whole story to our new kids who are like 7th and 8th graders. And they're like, oh my gosh, you like came out of the pits of hell. Like you were locked in a basement for 12 years. And now he's so successful. And it was just because we could reach him and like talk to him and process emotions and help him get on his feet and give him resources. So that's something that like I've done, and like he's like one of my number one favorite people. He called me yesterday actually. He's so funny. And he thinks he's all that in a bag of chips right now because he likes to check in on me and like ask how I'm doing. So I'm like, hold on now. I'm doing fine, but how are you? But it's just like an incredible change. Like he didn't even know how old he was coming to us. Wow. And that was 2 years ago. And so it's just like helping people get on their feet is what I want to do, and what I mean, like my skills have shown that I'm good at. I think of the 3 staff there, I was definitely the one who connected with him the most, even though I wasn't doing all of the one-on-one with him because we have like female and male legal stuff that we have to abide by. But yeah, it was just incredible.
Wow.
So
that's so cool.
That's one example.
So going off that, I have a question for and this will be for people who are in a supporter position. I'm thinking family and friends of those who struggle with mental health issues. What's a entry level course suggestion or tip that you would give to someone when imagine I'm a parent or something, or a friend, and my friend or family member struggles with XYZ. What's your tip to the supporter? Just an entry level, like, hey, just spend time with them. Something like that you could say on this pod that might help someone who might be in a supporter role.
I mean, you kind of said it. You said to sit with them and listen. And I would literally say, stop talking and literally just listen, because sometimes somebody just needs to word vomit. And that's the majority of the time, actually. Like, it's kind of bad as a counselor. I'm going to get paid to just listen to people, but there's something so therapeutic about just being listened to. Like, if you can think of the one time where you felt so understood, like there is always that one person where you're like, wow, they listened to me and I felt so loved in that moment. You can be that person for somebody who is struggling. Like, that is the best way to be a supporter. And then also, if you like the practical things, so if somebody feels suicidal, ask them if they have a plan and know the suicide hotline number, because you can't stop somebody from choosing to take their life, but you can give them the resources and you can help prevent it. But if someone's super serious about it, like, it's very, very, very hard to stop that when somebody's choosing to end their life. And that's very hard to handle, because as a supporter, you want to feel responsible and you want to take all that pain away that's causing them to choose this, but you can't. Like, again, like, you got to give them the stick to remind the person that you're supporting that, no, you do have control. I know you feel out of control, but I want to help you be in control again. So it's just like, if you're a practical person, know the practical resources. If you're not a trained counselor, that's super hard. But also, if you're not a trained counselor, please don't try to do my job, because there's a lot to it. As much as you want to be that supporter, if you want to follow through with that, go to school for it. Like, my program is 2 years right now, and it's great. Like, I love what I'm learning, and I feel so much more prepared after my first semester than I did beforehand. And I thought I knew what I was doing, just being able to, like, ask the right questions, in quotations. I'm using air quotes, like asking the right questions. That's not necessarily, I wasn't necessarily asking those right questions, though. I was asking more hurtful questions, I now realize. So anyway, If you really, really, really want to be like 100% best supporter that you want to be, go to school for it. But for now, just listen. Just be there. Be present. Sit in the tension. It's so hard, but it's so beautiful because it's like a balancing act. If you think of somebody walking on a tightrope, just imagine sitting there.
How would you explain anxiety or depression? You can pick one or describe both. Like, how would you describe it to someone who maybe hasn't experienced it before?
Well, you're also asking somebody who
Yeah, good
hasn't
point.
like truly experienced it. But I can tell you, like, there have been times where I felt super low. And again, I just might be in denial and maybe I was depressed, but I'm denying it, which people do. And that's not uncommon. But it's also like when you do recognize that, oh, you can't get out of bed in the morning to get to work, or you can't function without, if you just can't function, if you can't shower, if these basic things are not being met, maybe it's time to talk to somebody. But yeah, as someone who hasn't, I don't think has really experienced depression, but for me, when I felt really low, it was hard for me to get out of bed. My head was in a cloud, and there were times where I don't really remember a couple of hours of the day, and I had other health issues going on at the time when I was going through stuff like this. You are down and out, and you are in a cloud, and nothing feels right. It's so hard to feel good. And when you do feel good, it's just for a moment. It's fleeting, and you feel like you'll never feel that way again. And I've heard that from other people. Like, that's not necessarily my experience, but it's just it's a very dark place to be.
What's like one of your most proud moments of your life?
That's a good question. So here's another thing is, like, it's hard for me to be proud of myself. I kind of have like bad self-talk occasionally. But it was actually a couple weeks ago during my skills group where I was practicing on a fellow classmate on like just counseling skills. And I just knocked that session out of the park. And I just felt so good. And I felt so like I got critiques and I got feedback from my supervisor. And I just felt like this is where I belong. And I was just so proud of myself for trying new things and actually like doing the counseling thing. It just felt really good to know that I'm in the right field for me. So I was really proud of myself then.
Can you describe that any further? Like, what is it like to be in your purpose?
To be in your purpose. Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm actually really dancing around some like theories right now. I'm going to go into a little bit of counseling stuff. But there's this thing called logotherapy, and it's meaning therapy. Logos means meaning. And then there's also positive psychology, which is strength-based. And I'm a very strength-based person. So if I see you sitting across from me and you are depressed and you feel like you can't accomplish anything, I'm going to ask you things that you have accomplished in the past. And I'm going to say, what's stopping you from doing that again? And I'm going to say, you did this so well. Let's build you up to do it again. So living in your purpose and like finding your meaning is not necessarily, it's not easy, but it's you just need that encouragement from other people. So as a counselor, like, I'm excited to encourage people to find their purpose and their meaning. My purpose and my meaning has come a lot from my faith. And again, like a lot of prayer, and like that was something that I chose to do personally, was to ask God to break my heart for what breaks his, and that was for teenagers. So I specifically want to work with hurting teens. And when they're using that bad self-talk and they're like, I'm ugly or I can't succeed in school, I'm like, heck no, stop a moment. There was one boy, I was a TA actually my senior year of high school. This is going way back. His name was Noah, and I doubt he'll listen to this because he's a senior in high school right now and like living his own life. But he was very, very good at art, and I was TAing for a literature class, and he just couldn't do it. So I was like, okay, you're really good at art. Let's make a graphic novel instead of writing out word for word like a short story. And that is just touching on his gifts and talents to help him feel like he can succeed. And so I just like speak to your listeners. I want you to remember and to even explore what are your gifts and talents, and are you using them, and are you exploring them? Like, if that's what makes you feel good, tap into that, because you might be trying a whole bunch of new stuff, but it's not working out. Don't be afraid to go back to the basics. What do you love? What makes you feel good? And that makes your work even so much more enjoyable, or just life even.
I just wanted to talk about the being in your purpose, because I felt that before when I spoke at the Praxis conference at business, my junior or senior year of college, where I was able to pitch Classic Buffalo to over 100 students from all over the country. And, I'd worked all week on my pitch, and I was like super happy with how it was going to turn out. And I was just like, this is awesome. And like, I remember all of the students, like they were like having fun times playing board games, and they were like doing stuff like on our off time. And then I was like just working on my pitch and working out my business idea or whatever. So when the pitch happened, I nailed it. And then I asked like after I finished, like everyone's clapping and losing it and like laughing. And, as I'm giving the speech, I felt like myself. I felt like for the first time in a long time, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And it was just like a chemistry with the universe. This like, oh my gosh, this is it. And I asked the guy who's the head of the conference, who could have easily been like, yeah, you could have been more like this or explain that. But he was like, in every sense of the word, you nailed it. You were yourself out there. And I started crying because I'm like, I knew it internally, but then someone else saw it too. And I've just been curious, because it sounds like you've kind of found what seems like it's going to be the next 5 to 10 year thing for you. It's just something that's, and, knowing you personally and knowing how much of a well you've been for other people to come and drink at, it's cool that you haven't necessarily gotten burned out yet. It can be,
It will happen. I know it. But then it's like, how do you bounce back from that? And like, it's always a process. But
how have you done it in the past? Because it's not like you just started doing this last year. You've been there for a lot of people a lot of times. But like how do you refill? Like what's your fuel?
What's my fuel? Food. I am a foodie. I will own that. For sure, food. Whatever I put in my body, I have to make sure it's good. Otherwise, I will feel like trash. And it's super funny. Some of my cohort members will probably listen to this, but they'll tell you, even when I have evening classes, and my dinners literally consist of fruits and vegetables and water and tea and natural like energy for me to just like be present and be well. And it's so funny because at the beginning everyone laughed at me and they were like, oh my god, you're eating carrots and and peanut butter, like what? I'm like, yeah, that's an odd combo, but it's like this is what makes me feel good.
Yep.
And then also I exercise, which is crazy. I was never a huge exerciser. Like, I am no small thing. In order for me to feel healthy, I don't have to lose weight, but for me to be active and like walk and lift weights occasionally, like that just gets my brain pumping. I feel good, and I know it's doing things for my body. So those are just like 2 practical things that I do. And then also, I'm still driving home. I literally have an hour commute from my house to Milwaukee for my school, which is so long. And I struggled for the first couple weeks. I was like, how do I use my time wisely and not like get in my head during this hour drive? So what do? I listen to podcasts, and I listen to music, and I'm real into true crime right now, which is odd, but that's like my outlet. I don't have to think about school for that hour. I don't have to think about all the people in my life. I just get to enjoy an hour to myself. If I want to call somebody, I can call someone. But like taking that time to just like decompress is so freeing. And as much as traffic sucks, I wish everybody could drive just forever for an hour and just to like, just maybe that's not your thing, but just do something that you enjoy that doesn't require a lot of brain power. And I don't recommend Netflix because screen time for me, I'm going to be a counselor and I just have issues with screen time sometimes. But music, like, just close your eyes and just be in the moment. If you like
While you're
mindfulness,
driving. Like, just close your eyes while you're driving.
this is another option, Ryan. Jeez. Uh,
Don't do that.
who don't like to drive, keep your eyes open while you drive. I am listening and talking through a device that lets me drive with both hands on the wheel currently. I recommend that. But no, like, seriously, take time to practice mindfulness, or just, I don't know, sit by a lake or a coffee shop. People watch. Oh my God, people are hilarious if you just watch them for a minute. Exercise, eat well, take an hour or so for yourself.
What's so weird is recently when I've had really, really depressed days and I don't feel like leaving my house or like just whatever, I just feel really sad. If I put on a podcast and I just listen to people talk, it's sort of like soothing or coping or something. It's like weird, like almost like, because there'll be two people talking with each other and I'm just kind of listening. And I don't know why, but maybe it's just me being a ghost in their podcast room, you know, just listening or maybe laughing because they might say something's funny. It's sort of like I may want to hang out with somebody and nobody wants to hang out with me, but at least I get to listen to this new episode or whatever.
Right. And if you think about it too, like, we're relational people, and there's something important about having conversations or just listening, which is so weird to me too, because if you think about our world now, is everything is phone is in your face, you're not connecting with people. So even though you're having a down day, you can still listen to two people interacting, and it's just a conversation, and it's real, and it's fun, or it's weird, and it's relieving in some way. And I don't understand the science behind it, or even if there is, but it is really cool. Good for you.
What's like a solution to the mental health thing? Like, what do you have ideas, or just do you think like what's your ideas? I don't know, for just to make mental health better.
Oh man, I've said it a lot, but wellness, like, that's my big thing right now. Even working with teenagers, so many kids don't know how important sleep is, and like, this is coming from somebody who got an average of 3.5 hours of sleep her freshman year of college. I do not recommend that. I highly do not recommend that. But just like learning how important it is to take care of your body and the effects of that on your brain and on your mood. I don't know. I guess it's been the past 2 years that I've really settled into, like, no, I am going to eat healthier, and I'm going to take my dog for a walk around the lake, and maybe I'll go rock climbing. Let me do something fun and like something different. Yeah, the importance of just learning how your body functions and being okay in your body too, because a lot of anxiety and depression is also somatic, and so it's like in your body. Like, you can probably tell me what anxiety feels like, or where in your body you feel it. And so being aware of that, and how do you, like, if you feel anxiety in your wrist, how do you massage that out? Whether that's with your mind or like with your actual hand, like, how do you relieve that tension? So it's like I'm very much like in the body person right now, and mindfulness and journaling. I'm not a good journaler. Like, I maybe do it 3 times a week.
It's just not your thing.
It's not my thing, but I want it to be my thing, so I claim it as my thing. It's not really my thing, but it's still helpful.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I recommend it to people, and if it doesn't work out, that's okay. Keep trying, or find something new. I don't know. Start a podcast. Yeah, so I'm very much in the body currently, and teaching people how to take care of their body, because, oh my gosh, the effects just like span throughout time. You glow. You literally glow. When you did your speech, you probably glowed, Ryan. And like, internally, externally, people saw that. I don't know what your physical state was, but just imagine like feeling that way on the inside all of the time, and being able to project that as you even get in a better headspace, and just like, no, this is what I love to do. I feel good, and I'm doing it all. And some days you're gonna have hard days, but just like, I want people to know that that is an option, is to reach that lovely space.
Well, we're gonna wrap up. We've got our final 5 questions. Number 1. You get to go to dinner with anyone in the world that's alive. Who do you go with?
John Bellion.
Ooh, okay. Why?
Well, I just did that Spotify thing to see my top
Oh,
artist, and he was number one. And I just really enjoy his music, and I'd love to talk to him about his song "Morning in America." Would love to talk to him about that.
where would you go to eat?
Gosh dang it! Oh, there's this place in my town called Mantra. It's an Indian bistro. Definitely there.
There you go. John's gonna meet you there.
Oh, sweet. I hope he likes it.
What is your spirit animal?
An owl.
I was gonna say the same thing.
Absolutely, yes.
What is your favorite moment of 2019?
My friend Cammie got married in Washington State, and I, on a whim, flew out there. Literally, it was within a week that she invited me because it wasn't likely that I could go. And like, she was like, "Please come. If you can't, no big deal. I have a place for you." Literally slept in the same room with her on the night before her wedding, which was crazy. And like, there's so many people in this house. There were maybe 50 people who came to her wedding, but it was such a sweet weekend and just like moment of being with her before her marriage and like being there to support her. Oh, incredible. Like, I loved that. It was amazing.
What's the first thing you do with $1 million?
Pay for my student loans. Without a doubt. I can't even tell you how in debt I am right now, but it is bad. So it is really bad.
What about after all that? Like, you pay for your parents' stuff. You know, what's the first thing you buy?
Okay, this is random, but I would buy myself an outfit from Ralph Lauren's collection. I was watching a documentary on his stuff, and I was like, this is incredible. I want to be able to afford his stuff. So probably an outfit
like
for
rare.
Kunz. Yes.
What is your favorite part of yourself?
Well, I will give you a physical one that I love. I love my eyes because I use them to show people that I'm listening.
Ooh.
Yes, that is good because, yeah, I just.
That's it.
That's it.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
And my left kneecaps. No.
No, it's my right pinky toe.
Right. Yeah, right. Now you finished the final 5. Congratulations. Yeah. So this is the closing part. You have to pick one person, significant other, family member, friend, whoever you want, but you're going to shout them out and talk for as long as you want to encourage them. Say like, "Hey, Janice, thanks so much for this. It's, you know, blah, blah, blah." But you're shouting somebody out and encouraging them for how they've impacted you or things you like about them. And then they have to listen to this part of the podcast.
So I want to shout out Katie Gillenwater. She was my roommate in college, and she's just incredible. She's full of joy, and I just want to say that I love you so much, and that you should keep going for your dream in art, and just know that your work means so much to me and to so much to other people, and your messages through it, whether it's mental health or just showing your joy through art, is incredible. And even though school is hard, I know you're doing great and you're doing your best and you're going to go so far. But anyway, thank you for caring about me so much when we were roommates. And I just hope that you're doing well, since I haven't seen you in a while. And that, I don't know, you come visit me soon because I miss you and I love you a lot. Okay, that is my shout out.
Yay.
Woohoo.
You were officially a guest of Classic Buffalo.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me.
I really wanted to do this, and I'm glad it finally worked out.
You've always been such a big supporter of mine, and just since day one, you know, even minus my mental health passions and stuff, you've always thought I was an awesome person, and you've always given me the best hugs. You've always, you know, in college, I wish we would have been closer in age so that we could have spent more time at college just hanging out and supporting each other. You know, it was a little different once I graduated because I was like 2 or 3 years older than you. But, you know, it still was just, you know, having you as just such a supportive friend. And it was a joy for me to watch you grow meeting you a freshman when I was a junior, and seeing you be in bad relationships with other people, both romantically and platonically, and then seeing how you came out of those and seeing how you survived. And then like just somehow you found a way to keep improving, or just, I don't know. I've always been able to see the potential in you. And it's good I've just admired your pursuit in mental health, and it means a lot for someone who meant a lot just as a friend, for you to again support me in my pursuits for my own mental health and stuff, and wanting to share other people's stories and stuff. So you've been a day one supporter, especially for Classic Buffalo and stuff, or as much as you could. So it means the world for you to be on there.
I still have the old stickers. I have the OG sticker still on my laptop. People ask about it, and I talk about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get like somewhat of a new logo or updated one, because a lot of people like that old logo.
Like, thank you, Ryan. You truly have a gift for seeing people too, for who they are, and seeing the growth. So just hearing your perception of my growth has been like, it's uplifting for me to hear that from you too. Everybody wants to be seen, and you see people, and I just really, really appreciate that and love that and see that in you. So thank you for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. It means a lot. Keep being awesome, all right?
I will. You too, okay?
Hey everybody, this is Ryan from the Classic Buffalo podcast. Wanted to take a second to talk about Anchor, how I'm actually making this podcast happen. Super happy that I'm partnering with them. So Anchor is actually the easiest way to make a podcast. I've done my research. This is basically the best way. I promise. It's going to give you everything you need in one place for free, which is the best part. It's going to have tools, so you don't really need a fancy schmancy recording guy. Anchor's going to be helping you out there, and then they're going to distribute the podcast everywhere, to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, everything. And then you can also make money with basically no minimum listenership, which is kind of rare. So hop on Anchor as soon as you can. Thanks. So I just got done talking with the wonderful Katherine. Yay! Thanks so much, Katherine, for joining me. It's been a long time coming. Definitely wanted to have her on the podcast, as she's known me during a very transformative time in my life, that being college. And I've been, kind of like an older brother to her, kind of having her go through some boy trouble, some girl trouble, some floor trouble, life trouble, and ultimately seeing her absolutely succeed and dominate and being a support to others. Like, I had to share her story. Katherine is definitely just such a light to other people. Great hugs. If you're ever in need of a hug, she's definitely a great hugger. She is such a empathetic, sympathetic, positive person, and anybody that has her in her life should be counting their blessings, because she is such an awesome person. So huge shout out to you, bud. So happy to have had you on the podcast, and to be sharing your journey to become a counselor, like trying to be there for people. And I think it's especially helpful for those people who feel like, man, it's so hard to relate to my son, to my brother, to my friend, because I don't know what it's like to have anxiety or depression. Just because you don't have a direct experience with something doesn't mean you don't have the ability to make the effort to try to understand, or to spend time with someone, or to ask someone what their love language is, and to pour into that person. Effort counts in these situations, guys. A lot of times we just don't get recognized. We don't get helped. But yeah, sometimes it just takes someone spending a little bit of time to say, like, hey, I'm just going to listen. If someone came to me and said that, and I like, dang, maybe that's all I needed to have a better week, right? Or to have a better day. You just never know. And I think that's so cool, her story talking about that guy, Dean, just kind of seeing him grow over the span of time, and then now he's kind of like a leader for some other kids. Like, that's some real work out here that they're doing, and I can't wait to see how she turns out and stuff like that. Just kind of, I know she's going to be doing some crazy cool things and mental health and counseling. And yeah, I think there's even just something you can do to help. And as if you're a supporter, you can go to school, which is a very expensive thing. You can go to a library, you can talk with a counselor, you can go get counseling, ask for tips. You know, there are support groups for those, kind of like, let's say, for example, it's not necessarily a very specific or totally accurate metaphor, but like, let's say if you have a brother, a sister, a friend, or whatever that is an alcoholic, going to Alcoholics Anonymous, even though you aren't yourself, still may be helpful. And I think I think that's what I'm trying to say. There also might be an actual group, correct me if I'm wrong, or if somebody knows, there might be an actual group for people that are in support systems. If those exist, go to those, learn skills. You know, when I was in the hospital, I was able to, bring in family members. They had like specific events of like open to family members and friends, close friends and stuff. For those who suffer with anxiety and depression, just so you could learn and kind of hear about what are coping skills and what are this and what are that. And that was really helpful. So I would recommend kind of seeking out those services, because ultimately, you don't have to directly experience anxiety and depression, but you may know someone who does. And it's always helps if you're like kind of the, if you're metaphorically or literally standing right next to that person, you making that extra step just to kind of learn about what they go through and kind of get some tips and tricks, like that's going to go a long way. So a lot of good stuff. I'm wishing shalom on everybody for today and in 2020. I'm wishing you peace. And if there are rough situations in your life, just keep trucking. You've got it. You've made it this far, and I think you can keep going. It's not an end to your journey. If there's something rough and if there's something good going on, celebrate. Be at peace with happiness. Some of you have been lacking it for a long time, and you deserve it like we all do. But if you want to be on the podcast, be like someone like Katherine, whether you know me or not. There are people that don't know me that we get on this podcast and we just kind of spend an hour and a half kind of sharing life. So if you want to be like one of those people, kind of DM me. Send me a little message. Say, hey, I want to go swimming. So that'd be a perfect message, actually. It'd be kind of funny. So we'll spend an hour and a half. If you want to be deep, if you know somebody or you yourself have struggled with anxiety, depression, I especially want to talk with you. But if you're like, I just want to talk for an hour and a half about sports, let's do that. It's still valuable, and at least in my book. So, guys, super happy that you made it another day, or at least for another hour while you're listening. So keep on trucking. I know you got this. Happiness is just around the corner, hopefully. I think so. Let's hope. All right, guys, we'll be back next time for another quality episode on Monday. Until next time, bye.